Captain Marcus Reed stared at the strange blue message crystal floating above his desk and wondered if he was dreaming. The crystal pulsed with soft light and spoke in perfect English with a voice that sounded like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. 3 times he had played the message, and 3 times it said the same impossible thing. The Valerian Empire wanted him to attend a royal wedding. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes and looked around his small captain's quarters aboard the exploration ship Terra Nova. Coffee cups filled with cold liquid sat on every surface, and star charts covered the walls. He had been mapping the outer edges of the Vega system for 6 months and had not spoken to another human in 3 weeks. His crew of 12 was good, but they were all busy with their own work. Space exploration was lonely work, but someone had to do it. The message crystal spoke again without him touching it. Captain Marcus Reed of the human vessel Terra Nova, you are formally invited to attend the royal wedding of Princess Lyra to Duke Kane of the Northern Houses. This ceremony will take place on the capital world of Crystera in 14 standard days. Your presence would honor both our species and mark a new beginning for diplomatic relations between the Valerian Empire and humanity. Marcus stood up and paced around his small room. He had heard of the Valerians, but had never seen one. They were supposed to be tall and elegant with skin that changed colors and 4 arms that moved like water. Their empire controlled a huge section of space near the Galactic Center, and they were known for being very formal and traditional. Humans had been trying to make contact with them for years, but the Valerians had always ignored Earth's messages. Now they wanted him at a wedding. The door to his quarters chimed, and his second officer, Lieutenant Kate Morgan, entered. She was a small woman with short red hair and sharp green eyes who never seemed to sleep. She carried a data pad and looked excited. "Captain, we just received a priority message from Earth Command," she said. "They want to talk to you immediately about something called a diplomatic opportunity." Marcus pointed at the floating crystal. "I think I know what they want to talk about." Kate stared at the crystal with wide eyes. "Is that Valerian tech? I thought they didn't make contact with humans." "Apparently they changed their minds," Marcus said. "They want me to attend a royal wedding." "You? Why you?" Marcus shrugged. "I have no idea. I'm not a diplomat. I map star systems and avoid getting shot at by pirates. I don't know anything about fancy alien weddings or royal protocol." Kate picked up her data pad and started reading. "Earth Command says this is the biggest diplomatic opportunity humanity has had in decades. The Valerians control 3 major hyperspace routes that we need for deep space exploration. If we can make friends with them, it would open up entire new sections of the galaxy. And if I mess it up, then humanity might be stuck in this corner of space for the next 100 years. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. No pressure at all. The communication system in his room beeped, and Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. The Admiral was an old woman with gray hair and a stern expression who had been commanding Earth's space fleet for 20 years. She looked tired but determined. "Reed," she said without any greeting. "I assume you got their message." "Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure why they picked me, though. We think it's because of what happened at the mining station last month. Word travels fast in space, and apparently the Valerians heard about how you handled that situation with the Traitor Guild." Marcus remembered the incident. A group of human miners had been trapped in their facility when Traitor Guild ships surrounded them and demanded illegal payment for safe passage through their territory. Marcus had arrived just as things were getting dangerous. Instead of fighting, he had convinced both sides to sit down and work out a fair agreement. No one got hurt, and everyone got what they needed. That was just common sense, Marcus said. Fighting would have gotten people killed for no good reason. "Exactly," Admiral Chen said. "The Valerians value peaceful solutions and honorable behavior. They must have decided you represent the best of human qualities." "What if I don't want to go?" "That's not really an option, Captain. Earth needs this alliance. The Valerians are offering us something we've wanted for years, and you're the key to making it happen." Marcus looked at the crystal, which was still glowing softly on his desk. "What do I need to know about their culture?" "We're sending you everything we have, but it's not much. The Valerians are very secretive about their customs. We know they value tradition and ceremony above almost everything else. Their weddings are apparently huge events that last for several days. Whatever you do, don't insult their customs or break any of their rules. What rules? We don't know. That's the problem. The communication ended and Marcus was alone again, except for Kate, who was still reading her datapad. She looked up at him with concern. Captain, it says here that no human has ever been invited to a major Valerian ceremony before. You'll be making history. Great, Marcus said. I always wanted to be remembered as a human who accidentally started an interstellar war. Over the next few days, Marcus tried to learn everything he could about Valerian culture, but there was not much information available. Humans had only made brief contact with Valerian traders and border guards. Most of what Earth knew about them came from other alien species, who were almost as secretive as the Valerians themselves. He learned that Valerians lived for about 300 years and spent most of that time studying art, philosophy, and what they called the harmony of existence. Their society was organized around family groups, called houses, and each house specialized in different skills. Some houses were warriors, others were artists, and still others were scientists or diplomats. The royal family belonged to the Crystal House, which had ruled the Valerian Empire for over 1,000 years. Princess Lyra was the king's only daughter, and her marriage to Duke Cain would unite two of the most powerful houses in the empire. The wedding was expected to be the biggest celebration in Valerian history. Marcus also learned the Valerians had 4 arms, could live for centuries, and their skin changed color based on their emotions. Blue meant happiness, green meant curiosity, red meant anger, and purple meant deep respect. There were dozens of other color combinations that meant different things, but Marcus gave up trying to memorize them all. The most important thing he learned was that Valerians took their ceremonies very seriously. Breaking protocol or showing disrespect during an important event was considered one of the worst crimes possible in their society. Some offenses were so serious that the guilty person could be banned from Valerian space forever. Terra Nova arrived at the Crystal system exactly 14 days after receiving the invitation. Marcus stood on the bridge and stared at the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. The Valerian capital world looked like a giant jewel floating in space. Cities made of living crystal covered the surface and reflected starlight in millions of different colors. Even from orbit, Marcus could see that the cities seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Captain, his navigator Lieutenant Torres called out, "We're being contacted by Valerian traffic control." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking English with a musical accent. "Human vessel Terra Nova, you are cleared for landing at Royal Spaceport 7. Please follow the guidance beacon and maintain minimum speed. Welcome to Crystera." The landing was smooth, and Marcus found himself stepping out of his ship onto a platform made of what looked like solid diamond. The air was warm and smelled like flowers mixed with something he couldn't identify. In the distance, he could see the crystal cities rising into the sky like frozen music. A figure approached him across the platform, and Marcus got his first close look at a Valerian. Ambassador Thane was almost 7 feet tall, with pale skin that currently showed swirls of blue and green. His 4 arms moved independently as he walked, and his face was long and elegant, with large silver eyes. He wore robes that seemed to be made of woven light. "Captain Reed," Thane said, his voice the same musical tone Marcus had heard on the radio. "I am Ambassador Thane of the Diplomatic House. I will be your guide during your stay on Crystera." Marcus tried to remember the proper greeting he had read about. He placed his right hand over his heart and bowed slightly. "I am honored to be here, Ambassador Thane. Thank you for inviting humanity to share in this celebration." Thane's skin shifted to show more blue, which Marcus hoped meant approval. "Your courtesy honors both our species, Captain. Come, there's much to show you before the ceremony begins." As they walked away from the landing platform, Marcus realized that his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. He was just a ship captain who had stumbled into the biggest diplomatic event in human history. All he had to do was not mess it up. How hard could it be? Ambassador Thane led Marcus through the Crystal City, and every step revealed new wonders that made his head spin. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground like giant flowers made of living light. Streets curved in impossible directions, and gardens floated in the air without any visible support. Valerian citizens moved through the city with graceful steps, and their skin colors shifted constantly as they talked to each other in their musical language. "Your cities are incredible," Marcus said as they walked past a fountain that shot streams of liquid crystal into the air. "How do you make the buildings glow like that?" "They are not made," Thane replied with pride, showing his golden swirls in his skin. "Our cities are grown from seed crystals over many generations. Each building is alive in its own way and responds to the emotions of those who live inside it. When we are happy, the buildings glow brighter. When we are sad, they dim to give us comfort." Marcus stopped walking and stared at a nearby tower that pulsed with soft purple light. "The buildings have emotions?" "Not emotions as you understand them, but they are connected to us. Your human scientists might call it a form of biological technology. We simply call it home." They continued walking until they reached the grand amphitheater, where the wedding would take place. Marcus had seen pictures of large stadiums on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for this. The amphitheater was carved from a single massive crystal that rose almost a mile into the sky. Thousands of seats were arranged in perfect circles around a central stage, and every surface reflected light in rainbow patterns. "The ceremony will last 3 days," Thane explained as they climbed the crystal steps. "The first day celebrates the past, honoring the families and traditions that created both bride and groom. The second day celebrates the present, showing the love and commitment they share today. The third day celebrates the future and the children and prosperity they will bring to our people." 3 days seems like a long time for a wedding," Marcus said. "Time has different meaning for people who live 300 years, Thane said with amusement, turning his skin pale green. "Also, royal weddings are not just about two people joining together. They affect the entire empire. Every citizen has the right to witness and participate in the celebration." Thane showed Marcus to his seat in a special section reserved for honored guests. The chair was made of smooth crystal that felt warm to the touch and somehow adjusted itself to fit his human body perfectly. Around him sat representatives from dozens of different alien species, all dressed in their finest ceremonial clothing. "Remember," Thane said quietly, "during the ceremony you must stand when others stand, remain silent when others are silent, and participate in any group activities with respect and dignity. Most importantly, during the ritual of bonds on the final day, you must follow my lead exactly. That ceremony is sacred to our people, and mistakes can have serious consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Marcus asked. "It is better not to think about such things," Thane said, his skin showing worried streaks of dark blue. "Simply do as I do and all will be well." The first day of the ceremony began at sunrise with a procession of both families entering the amphitheater. Marcus watched in amazement as hundreds of Valerians in flowing robes walked slowly around the stage while singing in harmonies that made the crystal walls vibrate with music. Duke Kane appeared first, a tall figure with silver skin and scars on his arms that marked him as a warrior. He moved with confidence and power, but Marcus noticed that his skin showed mostly neutral colors with no warmth or joy. Princess Lyra entered last, and Marcus understood immediately why she was considered the most beautiful woman in the Empire. She was smaller than most Valerians, but moved with grace that made her seem to float above the ground. Her skin showed shifting patterns of silver and blue that caught the light like flowing water. Her 4 arms moved in perfect coordination as she acknowledged the crowd with elegant gestures. But when Marcus looked closely at her face, he saw something unexpected. Despite the celebration around her, Princess Lyra's expression showed sadness and resignation. Her skin colors were beautiful, but they seemed forced, as if she was working hard to appear happy when she felt something else entirely. The ceremony continued with speeches from both families about their histories and achievements. Marcus tried to pay attention, but the Valerian language was difficult to follow even with the translation device Thane had given him. He found himself watching Princess Lyra instead, and noticed that she rarely looked at Duke Kane directly. When she did look at him, her skin would show brief flashes of colors that Marcus thought might mean fear or dislike. During a break in the ceremony, Thane noticed Marcus looking puzzled. "Is something wrong, Captain?" "I don't understand Valerian emotions very well yet," Marcus said carefully. "But Princess Lyra doesn't seem very happy about this wedding." Thane's skin went completely gray, which Marcus had learned meant extreme discomfort. "Such observations are not appropriate for guests to make," he said quietly. Royal marriages are arranged for the good of the empire, not for personal happiness. On Earth, people usually marry because they love each other, Marcus said. Earth and Crystera have very different customs. Thane replied firmly. It is not our place to question the wisdom of our leaders. The second day of the ceremony focused on the present moment and included demonstrations of the couple's skills and accomplishments. Duke Kane performed combat exercises with weapons that seemed to be made of crystallized energy. He was clearly a master warrior, and the crowd cheered as he defeated multiple opponents in ritual combat. Princess Lyra's demonstration was completely different. She sang a song that made the entire amphitheater resonate with harmonious music, and then created sculptures from raw crystal using only her mind and hands. Her artistic abilities were incredible, and Marcus found himself holding his breath as she shaped light and matter into forms of impossible beauty. During her performance, something unexpected happened. A small Valerian child in the audience became excited and tried to climb over the seats to get a better view. The child slipped and fell toward the sharp crystal edges below. Without thinking, Marcus jumped from his seat and caught the child just before impact. The amphitheater fell silent as Marcus carefully set the child down and checked for injuries. The child was fine but scared, and Marcus knelt down to comfort them with gentle words and a reassuring smile. When he looked up, he realized that thousands of Valerians were staring at him with their skin showing colors he didn't recognize. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked Thane, who had rushed to his side. "No," Thane said with wonder in his voice. "You did something very right. Protecting children is the highest virtue in our society. You acted without thought for your own safety to save a life that was not even your own species." Marcus noticed that Princess Lyra was also staring at him from the stage. Her skin was showing new colors, bright patterns of silver and gold that seemed to pulse with warmth. For the first time since the ceremony began, she looked genuinely interested in something. The child's parents came to thank Marcus with tears in her eyes and skin colors, so bright they made the nearby crystals glow brighter. Other Valerians in the crowd began standing up and showing respectful purple patterns in their skin. Marcus felt embarrassed by all the attention and tried to return to his seat quietly. "Captain," Thane said as they sat down, "you may have just changed how our people view humanity forever." The third day arrived with great ceremony and anticipation. This was the day of the ritual of bonds, the most sacred part of any Valerian wedding. Thane had spent hours the night before trying to explain the complex dance and gestures that would be required of all guests. The ritual connects all present to the married couple through spiritual bonds that will last throughout their lives, Thane explained. Each movement has meaning and must be performed with perfect precision. Follow my lead exactly and do not attempt any gestures you have not practiced. The ritual began with all the guests standing and forming concentric circles around the bride and groom. Music filled the air, not just from instruments, but from the crystal walls themselves vibrating in harmony. Princess Lyra and Duke Kane stood in the center, holding hands while the guests began a slow dance that moved like ocean waves around them. Marcus tried his best to copy Thane's movements, but the dance was incredibly complex. Valerians moved all four arms independently while stepping in patterns that seemed to defy gravity. He managed the basic steps, but felt clumsy and out of place among the graceful aliens around him. As the dance continued, the circles moved closer to the center, and the music grew more intense. Marcus could feel something strange happening, as if the air itself was becoming thick with energy. The crystal walls were glowing brighter than ever, and he realized that this was more than just a ceremony. Something real and powerful was taking place. Then disaster struck. Princess Lyra stumbled during a particularly complex sequence of movements. Marcus didn't know if she tripped or if the emotional weight of the ceremony became too much for her. All he saw was that she was falling toward the sharp crystal floor, with no one close enough to catch her. Without thinking, Marcus broke from the dance pattern and lunged forward to catch her. His arms wrapped around her waist, and he pulled her against his chest to keep her from falling. For a moment, they stood frozen in the center of the circle, while the music and dancing stopped abruptly. Princess Lyra looked up at him with surprise and gratitude in her large silver eyes. Marcus realized he was holding the most important woman in the Valerian Empire in his arms, and probably breaking dozens of royal protocols. But when he tried to let go, she didn't move away. Instead, she placed one of her hands over his heart in a gesture that felt both intimate and significant. The silence in the amphitheater was deafening. Marcus looked around and saw thousands of Valerians staring at them with their skin, showing colors of complete shock. Even Thane looked stunned and his skin had gone completely white. What did I do wrong this time? Marcus whispered to Princess Lyra. She smiled at him with an expression he couldn't read, and her skin began showing patterns of silver and gold that seemed to dance with inner light. You didn't do anything wrong, she said quietly. You just changed both of our lives forever. The silence stretched on forever as Marcus stood in the center of the amphitheater, still holding Princess Lyra in his arms. Thousands of Valerians stared at them with skin colors that shifted between shock and confusion. The crystal walls had stopped glowing, and even the air seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. Duke Kane was the first to break the silence. His skin flashed bright red with anger as he stepped forward and pointed one of his 4 arms at Marcus. "Release the princess immediately, human," he commanded in a voice that echoed through the crystal structure. "You have violated the sacred ceremony and dishonored both our houses." Marcus quickly let go of Princess Lyra and stepped back, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm sorry," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "She was falling and I just reacted. I didn't mean to interrupt anything important." "Didn't mean to interrupt?" Duke Kane's voice rose to a shout. "You have performed the claim of hearts during the ritual of bonds. According to our oldest laws, you have just claimed Princess Lyra as your bride, and she has accepted by allowing your touch during the sacred ceremony." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "I did what?" "That's impossible. I was just trying to keep her from getting hurt." Ambassador Thane rushed forward with his skin, showing patterns of pure panic. "There must be some mistake," he said quickly. "Captain Reed is not familiar with our customs. He could not have known the meaning of his actions. Ignorance does not change the law." Duke Kane replied coldly. "The claim of hearts was witnessed by 10,000 people, and the ceremony crystals recorded every moment. The bonds have been formed and cannot be undone." An elderly Valerian in elaborate robes approached the group. His skin showed deep purple patterns that Marcus had learned meant great authority and wisdom. This had to be King Aldrich himself, ruler of the entire Valerian Empire. "My daughter," King Aldrich said gently to Princess Lyra, "you must speak now. Did you accept the human's claim willingly, or were you forced by circumstance?" Princess Lyra looked at her father, then at Duke Kane, and finally at Marcus. Her skin showed swirling patterns of silver and blue that seemed to pulse with internal light. "Father, I was falling and Captain Reed saved me from injury. But when he held me, I felt something I have never experienced before. His emotions were so strong and genuine that they resonated through the ceremony crystals. I felt his protective instinct, his kindness, and his honor. When I placed my hand over his heart, it was not from accident or fear. It was from choice." The crowd gasped and their skin colors shifted to show amazement and confusion. Duke Kane's red anger patterns became so intense that nearby crystals began to crack from the emotional energy. "This is madness," Duke Kane declared. "I will not be dishonored by a primitive alien who stumbled into our sacred ceremony. I challenge Captain Reed to combat for the right to marry Princess Lyra. Let the old ways decide who is worthy." King Aldrich raised all 4 his arms, and the crowd fell silent again. "The challenge is recognized according to our laws. Captain Reed, you have the right to accept or decline. But know that declining would mean giving up any claim to my daughter and accepting permanent exile from Valerian space." Marcus looked around the amphitheater at all the alien faces staring at him. He thought about his ship in orbit, his crew waiting for orders, and Earth counting on him to build diplomatic relations with the Valerians. Everything was falling apart because he had tried to keep someone from getting hurt. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, "I never intended to claim anyone as a bride. I don't even understand how I did it. But I won't run away from the consequences of my actions. If Duke Kane wants to fight me, I accept his challenge." Duke Kane smiled with satisfaction, and his skin showed pleased patterns of orange and red. "Excellent. We will meet in the arena of honor at sunrise tomorrow. Choose your weapons wisely. Human, it will be the last choice you ever make." The crowd began to disperse, but Marcus noticed that many Valerians were looking at him with what seemed like respect rather than anger. Ambassador Thane led him away from the amphitheater toward the royal palace while trying to explain the situation. "Captain, you must understand the seriousness of what has happened," Thane said as they walked through gardens filled with crystal flowers. "The claim of hearts is one of our oldest laws. It was created in ancient times to prevent forced marriages and allow true love to override political arrangements. But it has not been invoked in over 200 years. So I accidentally used an ancient law to steal the princess from her arranged marriage? In simple terms, yes, but the law exists for good reasons. Many young Valerians have been saved from unhappy marriages by the claim of hearts. The ceremony crystals do not lie. They recorded the genuine emotions you felt when you protected Princess Lyra. They also recorded her willing acceptance of your claim. They reached the palace, which was even more magnificent than the amphitheater. Towers of living crystal spiraled into the sky, while floating platforms carried visitors between different levels. Gardens grew on walls and ceilings defying gravity and logic. Marcus was shown to guest quarters that were larger than his entire ship. "Rest well tonight," Thane advised. "Tomorrow you will face Duke Kane in combat. He is one of the finest warriors in the Empire and has never been defeated in single combat. What are my chances of winning?" Thane's skin went gray with worry. "Honestly, very small. Duke Kane has trained for combat his entire life. He is stronger, faster, and more skilled than any human could be. But the arena of honor does not always favor the strongest fighter. Sometimes honor and courage matter more than pure skill." After Thane left, Marcus sat alone in his crystal chamber and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. 3 days ago, he had been a simple ship captain mapping distant star systems. Now he was somehow engaged to an alien princess and facing a duel to the death with a warrior who could probably tear him apart with his bare hands. A soft chime announced a visitor, and Marcus was surprised to see Princess Lyra enter his room. She had changed from her ceremonial robes into simpler clothing, but she was still the most beautiful being he had ever seen. Her skin showed gentle patterns of blue and silver that seemed to dance in the lamplight. "Your Highness," Marcus said, standing up quickly. "Should you be here? I mean, is it appropriate for you to visit me alone?" "Under normal circumstances, no," she replied with a smile. "But we are no longer bound by normal circumstances, are we? According to Valerian law, you and I are now betrothed. That gives us certain rights to spend time together." She moved around his room, examining the earth books and personal items he had brought with him. Her 4 arms moved independently as she picked up objects and studied them with curiosity. "Tell me about your world, Marcus," she said, using his first name for the first time. "What is it like to live on a planet where people marry for love instead of political advantage?" Marcus sat down across from her and tried to find the right words. "It's not perfect. People make mistakes, and sometimes marriages fail. But when it works, when 2 people really care about each other, it creates something wonderful. They support each other through difficulties and celebrate each other's successes. They become stronger together than they ever could be apart." "That sounds beautiful," Princess Lyra said with wistful patterns appearing in her skin. "I have always wondered what it would feel like to choose my own path in life. From the day I was born, my future was planned by others. Where I would live, what I would study, who I would marry, even how many children I should have. Everything decided by people who care more about politics than about my happiness. Is that why you seemed sad during the ceremony? Because you didn't want to marry Duke Kane?" Princess Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "Duke Kane is not a bad person, but he represents everything about our old ways that I find limiting. He believes that tradition should never change and that people should always obey their leaders without question. If I married him, I would spend the rest of my life as a symbol rather than a person. And what do you think about marrying me instead?" She looked directly at him with her large silver eyes. "I think you are the first person who has ever risked everything to protect me without expecting anything in return. When you caught me during the ceremony, I felt your emotions through the crystals. You were not thinking about politics or advantage or what you could gain. You simply saw someone who needed help, and you helped them. That kind of genuine caring is rare in my world." "But I'm human," Marcus said. "We're completely different species. How could a marriage between us ever work? How could it not work if we respect and care for each other? Yes, we are different, but perhaps that is exactly what both our peoples need. You could teach us about choice and individual freedom. We could teach you about harmony and long-term thinking. Together we might create something neither of our species could achieve alone. Marcus felt a strange sensation in his chest as he looked at this remarkable woman. She was intelligent, kind, and brave enough to risk everything for the chance at a different kind of life. Under any other circumstances, he would consider himself incredibly lucky to have met her, but tomorrow he might die trying to prove he was worthy of her. "Princess," he said quietly, "what happens if I lose tomorrow? What happens to you? If you lose, I will marry Duke Kane as originally planned. But I will never forget that for one brief moment someone cared enough about me to risk everything. That memory will have to be enough. And if I win?" She smiled and her skin glowed with warm golden patterns. "If you win, then we will face the future together and see what wonders await us among the stars. But first you must survive tomorrow. Duke Kane has never lost a battle, and he will not be gentle with someone who has taken what he considers his property." After Princess Lyra left, Marcus lay awake staring at the crystal ceiling and wondering if he would live to see another sunset. Tomorrow he would face a trained warrior in combat with nothing but his wits and determination to keep him alive. The odds were against him, but he had faced impossible situations before and survived. He thought about his crew, waiting in orbit, and Earth depending on him to succeed. He thought about Princess Lyra and the chance she was taking on a future with him. Most of all, he thought about the little Valerian child he had saved, and how sometimes doing the right thing led to consequences no one could predict. Tomorrow would bring either victory or death. Either way, Marcus Reed was about to become a very different person than the simple ship captain who had arrived on Crystera just 3 days ago. Marcus woke before dawn to find Ambassador Thane waiting in his room with a selection of weapons laid out on crystal tables. The Valerian looked tired and his skin showed worried patterns of dark blue mixed with gray streaks of fear. "Captain, you must choose your weapons for the combat trial," Thane said quietly. "Duke Kane has selected traditional energy blades and combat armor. You have the right to choose different weapons if you prefer." Marcus examined the alien weapons with growing concern. Energy swords that hummed with power, crystalline spears that could extend to 3 times their length at will, and armor made from living metal that moved like liquid but could stop plasma blasts. Everything was designed for someone with 4 arms and Valerian strength. "These are all made for your people," Marcus said. "Is there anything designed for humans?" "I am afraid not. No human has ever faced the trials of worth before. But remember, this is not just about fighting skill. The trials test 3 things: wisdom, strength, and heart. Combat is only the test of strength. Even if Duke Kane defeats you in battle, you can still prove yourself worthy through the other trials." "What are the other trials?" Thane's skin showed patterns of uncertainty. "They are decided by King Aldrich based on what qualities he believes you need to prove. No one knows what they will be until the moment arrives." Marcus picked up one of the lighter energy swords and tested its weight. The weapon was too long for his human proportions and designed for fighting styles that used all 4 arms simultaneously. He would be at a severe disadvantage in direct combat. "Thane, can I ask you something? Why do you seem to want me to succeed? Yesterday, you were worried about me breaking your customs. Now you're trying to help me win trials that could change your entire society." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment while his skin shifted through several color patterns. "Because I have been watching you for 3 days, and I see something my people have forgotten. You act from genuine emotion rather than calculated advantage. When you saved the child, you were not thinking about how it would make you look. When you caught Princess Lyra, you were not planning to claim her as a bride. You simply did what felt right in the moment. And that's a good thing. It is a quality our people once valued highly, but have lost over centuries of formal ceremonies and political arrangements. Perhaps we need someone who can remind us what it means to follow our hearts instead of just our traditions." The Arena of Honor was a circular chamber carved from a single massive crystal deep beneath the royal palace. Seats for spectators rose in tiers around a central fighting platform, while the walls pulsed with soft light that responded to the emotions of everyone present. Marcus estimated that several thousand Valerians had gathered to witness the trials. King Aldrich sat on a throne made of flowing crystal at the highest point of the arena. Princess Lyra sat beside him wearing formal robes and crown that caught the light like captured starfire. Her skin showed steady patterns of blue and silver, but Marcus could see tension in the way she held her four arms. Duke Kane entered the arena from the opposite side, wearing black armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He carried two energy blades and moved with the confident grace of someone who had never lost a battle. His skin showed aggressive red patterns mixed with orange satisfaction. Citizens of the Valerian Empire, King Aldrich announced in a voice that echoed to the crystal chamber, we gather today to witness the trials of worth. Captain Marcus Reed of Earth has claimed my daughter through the ancient right of claim of hearts. Duke Kane of the Northern Houses challenges this claim. The trials will determine who is truly worthy to join our royal family. The king stood and raised all four arms. The first trial tests wisdom. Captain Reed, you must navigate the crystal maze of thought and reach the center before the light fades. Duke Kane, you will have the same opportunity. Whoever completes the maze faster demonstrates superior wisdom. A section of the arena floor opened to reveal a complex labyrinth made of transparent crystal walls. The maze was three-dimensional with passages that twisted through multiple levels connected by ramps and bridges that seemed to float in midair. At the center, a pedestal held a glowing orb that pulsed with soft white light. Duke Kane entered the maze first and began moving through the passages with quick, confident steps. He had obviously studied this challenge before and knew exactly which paths to take. His four arms allowed him to test multiple routes simultaneously, while his Valerian senses could detect subtle energy patterns that guided him toward the correct path. Marcus entered from the opposite side and immediately realized he was in serious trouble. The maze was designed for Valerian mental abilities that humans simply did not possess. The crystal walls showed faint patterns that were supposed to guide the way, but Marcus could not interpret their meaning. The paths seemed to shift and change when he was not looking directly at them. He tried to follow Duke Kane's route, but found that passages that were open for the Valerian were sealed for him. The maze was responding to their different mental patterns and creating unique challenges for each participant. Marcus was quickly lost in a three-dimensional puzzle that made no sense to his human brain. Then he stopped trying to solve the maze logically and began paying attention to his feelings instead. The crystal walls were not just barriers. They were emotional conductors like the ceremony crystals he had experienced during the wedding. If he focused on his emotions rather than trying to calculate the correct path, he could sense which directions felt right and which felt wrong. Following his instincts rather than logic, Marcus began moving through the maze with increasing confidence. He could not see the energy patterns that guided Duke Kane, but he could feel the emotional resonance of the crystal walls. Passages that led toward the center felt warm and welcoming, while dead ends felt cold and unwelcoming. Duke Kane reached the center first and grasped the glowing ore with obvious satisfaction. But when Marcus emerged from a completely different passage only moments later, the crowd gasped in surprise. No one had ever completed the maze using emotional navigation instead of logical calculation. Interesting, King Aldrich commented as both challengers returned to the arena floor. Duke Kane demonstrates traditional wisdom, while Captain Reed shows us a completely new approach. Both have merit. The trial of wisdom is declared a draw. Duke Kane's skin flashed with angry red patterns. He had expected to win the wisdom trial easily, and Marcus's success clearly frustrated him. The second trial tests strength. The king continued. You will face each other in direct combat. The trial ends when one challenger yields or cannot continue fighting. This was the moment Marcus had been dreading. Duke Kane was taller, stronger, and had four arms to Marcus's two. The Valerian was also a trained warrior with decades of combat experience, while Marcus was just a ship captain who had learned basic self-defense during his military training. Duke Kane attacked immediately with both energy blades spinning in complex patterns that created a wall of deadly light. Marcus barely managed to block the first few strikes with his single sword while backing away from the relentless assault. The Valerian's four arms allowed him to attack and defend simultaneously, while Marcus could only react to each threat as it came. The crowd watched in tense silence as Duke Kane pressed his advantage with ruthless efficiency. His blades moved too fast for Marcus to follow, and only luck and desperation kept the human from being cut down in the first few seconds of combat. Marcus realized that trying to match Duke Kane's superior skill would only get him killed quickly. Instead, he began using tactics that his opponent would not expect. He threw his sword at Duke Kane's feet to make him stumble, then rolled between the Valerian's legs to attack from behind. When Duke Kane turned to face him, Marcus grabbed a handful of crystal dust from the arena floor and threw it at his opponent's eyes. Dishonorable tactics! Duke Kane snarled as he wiped the dust away. You fight like a coward. I fight like someone who wants to live, Marcus replied, picking up his sword again. The battle continued with Marcus using every dirty trick he could think of, while Duke Kane grew increasingly frustrated with his opponent's unconventional methods. The human could not match the Valerian's strength or skill, but he was more creative and unpredictable. Then disaster struck. One of Duke Kane's energy blades sliced across Marcus's left arm, cutting through skin and muscle. The human cried out in pain and nearly dropped his weapon as blood began flowing down his arm. The wound was not fatal, but it severely limited his ability to fight effectively. Duke Kane smiled with satisfaction and prepared to finish the battle with a final devastating attack. But as he raised both blades above his head, he lost his balance slightly on a patch of crystal dust that had been scattered earlier. The Valerian stumbled forward, and Marcus saw his opportunity. Instead of attacking, Marcus dropped his sword and caught Duke Kane as he fell. The Valerian was surprised by the human's action, and for a moment they stood together with Marcus supporting his wounded opponent. "Why did you help me?" Duke Kane asked with confusion, replacing the anger in his voice. "Because you were hurt and needed help," Marcus replied simply. "The fight is over. There's no point in letting you get injured further." The arena fell completely silent as the two fighters stood together. Duke Kane looked at his opponent with new respect, while his skin showed colors that Marcus had never seen before. The Valerian slowly straightened up and stepped back from Marcus's support. "I yield," Duke Kane announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Captain Reed has demonstrated strength that I do not possess. Not the strength to destroy enemies, but the strength to show mercy when victory is within reach. This is a quality worthy of our royal family." King Aldrich stood up with surprise showing in his skin colors. "Duke Kane, are you certain? You were winning the combat trial." "Physical victory means nothing if it comes at the cost of honor," Duke Kane replied. "Captain Reed chose to help his enemy rather than claim easy victory. That choice shows strength of character that no amount of combat training can provide." The king nodded slowly. "The trial of strength goes to Captain Reed. Now we come to the final trial, the test of heart. This trial cannot be fought or won through clever tactics. Captain Reed, you must demonstrate that your feelings for my daughter are genuine and worthy of the bonds that connect our peoples." Marcus looked up at Princess Lyra, who was watching him with intense interest. Her skin glowed with patterns of silver and gold that seemed to pulse with inner light. He realized that everything he had been through was leading to this moment. The test of heart was about to begin, and Marcus had no idea what form it would take. King Aldrich gestured toward a raised platform in the center of the arena, where two crystal thrones had been placed facing each other. The thrones were connected by streams of flowing light that pulsed with soft energy patterns. "The trial of heart requires complete honesty," the king explained as Marcus and Princess Lyra took their seats. "The ceremony crystals will create a direct connection between your minds and emotions. Every feeling, every thought, every memory will be shared between you. If your feelings are false or selfish, the crystals will reveal this truth to everyone present. Are you prepared to open your heart completely?" Marcus looked at Princess Lyra, sitting across from him. Her skin showed nervous patterns of blue and silver, while her large eyes watched him with a mixture of hope and fear. He realized that this trial would be as difficult for her as it was for him. She would have to reveal her own feelings just as completely as he revealed his. "I'm ready," Marcus said, though his voice shook slightly with nervousness. "As am I," Princess Lyra added, reaching out to place one of her hands on the crystal connection between their thrones. The moment Marcus touched the crystal, everything changed. The arena around him faded away, and he found himself standing in a space filled with swirling colors and shifting lights. He could feel Princess Lyra's presence beside him, but she appeared as patterns of energy rather than her physical form. Then the memories began to flow between them. Marcus experienced Princess Lyra's childhood as if it were his own. He felt her loneliness growing up in the royal palace with tutors and servants but no real friends. He shared her frustration at being told constantly what she must do, what she must learn, and who she must become. He felt her sadness when she learned that her marriage had been arranged before she was even old enough to understand what love meant. But he also experienced her joy in learning about art and music, her wonder at the beauty of the crystal cities, and her deep love for her people and her world. He felt her curiosity about other species, and her dream of exploring the galaxy, to see what wonders existed beyond Crystera. At the same time, Princess Lyra was experiencing Marcus's memories and emotions. She felt his excitement when he first saw the stars from space, and his pride in commanding his own ship. She experienced his loneliness during long voyages between star systems, and his dedication to his crew's safety and well-being. She felt his genuine desire to help others and his frustration with politicians who cared more about power than about doing what was right. The crystal connection showed them each other's deepest fears as well. Marcus was afraid that he would never be good enough for someone as remarkable as Princess Lyra. He worried that his human limitations would disappoint her, and that their cultural differences would eventually drive them apart. Princess Lyra was afraid that Marcus's feelings for her were based only on her royal status or her exotic alien nature, rather than who she really was as a person. She feared that if he truly knew her flaws and doubts, he would no longer find her interesting. But as their memories and emotions continued to flow between them, both began to understand that their fears were groundless. Marcus saw that Princess Lyra was not just beautiful and royal, but also intelligent, kind, and brave. Her flaws made her more real and more lovable, not less. Her doubts showed that she thought carefully about important decisions rather than acting carelessly. Princess Lyra experienced Marcus's genuine protective instincts and his respect for her as an individual rather than just a princess. She felt how he had been moved by her artistic abilities and her intelligence, not just her appearance. Most importantly, she felt that he saw her as a person who deserved to make her own choices about her life. The crystal connection deepened and began showing them possible futures together. They saw themselves exploring unknown star systems in ships designed by combining human and Valerian technology. They experienced the joy of discovering new worlds and meeting alien species that neither of their peoples had encountered before. They saw themselves working together to solve problems that neither could handle alone. Marcus's human creativity combined with Princess Lyra's Valerian wisdom to find solutions that surprised everyone. They saw their partnership inspiring others from both species to work together in ways that had never been tried before. But the crystals also showed them the challenges they would face. There would be people from both species who opposed their marriage and tried to use their relationship for political gain. There would be times when their cultural differences caused misunderstandings and arguments. There would be moments when the responsibility of representing both humanity and the Valerian Empire felt overwhelming. Through it all, the crystal connection showed them supporting each other through every difficulty. They saw themselves growing stronger together rather than weaker apart. Their love was not the passionate romance of fairy tales, but something deeper and more lasting. A partnership based on mutual respect, shared dreams, and genuine care for each other's happiness. The vision began to fade, and Marcus found himself back in the arena, sitting across from Princess Lyra. Her skin was glowing with patterns of gold and silver that were brighter than anything he had seen before. Tears were flowing down her face, but she was smiling with joy. Around them, the thousands of Valerians in the arena were completely silent. The ceremony crystals had shared the most intense moments of the heart trial with everyone present. They had all experienced the genuine emotions flowing between Marcus and Princess Lyra. King Aldrich stood up slowly with wonder showing in his skin colors. I have witnessed many heart trials during my reign, but never one so powerful or so genuine. The crystals do not lie about emotions, and they have shown us something remarkable. Captain Reed, your feelings for my daughter are not based on political advantage or exotic attraction. You love her for who she truly is, and you want her to be happy even if the happiness does not include you. The king turned to his daughter. Princess Lyra, your feelings for Captain Reed are equally genuine. You see in him not just a husband, but a true partner who will support your dreams rather than try and control them. You both understand that love is not about possession, but about helping each other become the best versions of yourselves. Duke Kane stepped forward from where he had been watching the trial. His skin showed colors that Marcus had never seen before, patterns of deep respect mixed with something that might have been relief. "Your Majesty," Duke Kane said formally, "I withdraw my claim to Princess Lyra's hand in marriage. The heart trial has shown me that she could never be happy as my wife, and I could never give her what Captain Reed can offer. I ask your permission to serve as witness to their union and to pledge my support to their partnership." Princess Lyra rose from her crystal throne and walked to where Marcus was sitting. She took his hands in two of hers while placing her other two hands over his heart in the gesture he now knew meant deep affection and commitment. "Marcus Reed of Earth," she said in a voice that carried clearly through the silent arena, "will you accept me as your partner in all things? Will you explore the galaxy with me and help me discover what wonders await us among the stars?" Marcus stood up and looked into her silver eyes that sparkled with tears of joy. "Princess Lyra of Crystera, I will be honored to be your partner in everything. I promise to support your dreams and help you find the happiness you deserve." The arena erupted in celebration as thousands of Valerians showed their approval through skin colors so bright they made the crystal walls glow like captured sunlight. The ceremony crystals throughout the arena began singing in harmonies that seemed to come from the heart of the world itself. King Aldrich raised his arms for silence, and the crowd gradually quieted. "Citizens of the Valerian Empire, you have witnessed something unprecedented today. My daughter's marriage to Captain Reed will be the first union between our species and Earth. Let this partnership be the beginning of a new age of cooperation and exploration between our peoples." The wedding ceremony that followed was unlike anything in Valerian history. Traditional elements were combined with human customs that Princess Lyra had learned about from Marcus's memories during the heart trial. Instead of the formal exchange of political promises, Marcus and Princess Lyra wrote their own vows that spoke of partnership, exploration, and mutual support. Representatives from Earth arrived just in time for the ceremony, having traveled at maximum speed after receiving news of the unprecedented diplomatic opportunity. Admiral Chin herself attended the wedding and officially recognized the marriage on behalf of humanity. 3 months later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Unity, the first ship built using combined human and Valerian technology. Princess Lyra worked beside him at the navigation station, her forearms moving gracefully over controls that responded to both human logic and Valerian intuition. Through the view screen, they could see an unexplored star system that neither species had visited before. Planets of unknown composition orbited a strange blue star that pulsed with energy patterns no one had ever recorded. "Ready to make history?" Marcus asked his wife with a smile. Princess Lyra's skin glowed with excitement as she activated the ship's sensors. "Always ready when I'm with you." Behind them, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. Half were human and half were Valerian, working together in ways that would have been possible just a year earlier. Their partnership had inspired others from both species to attempt their own cooperative ventures. The Unity moved toward the unknown system, carrying hopes and dreams from 2 worlds. In the cargo holds were supplies for a new type of colony where humans and Valerians would live and work together. In the ship's databases were combined technologies that promised to revolutionize space travel for both species. But most importantly, the ship carried proof that different peoples could find common ground even when they seemed to have nothing in common. Marcus had attended an alien wedding as a simple guest and had somehow become the bridge between 2 civilizations. As the Unity entered the unknown system and began scanning the mysterious planets, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed. He was no longer just a ship captain exploring the galaxy alone. He was part of something larger, something that could change the future for countless generations. Princess Lyra took his hand and squeezed it gently as new worlds appeared on their screens. Whatever challenges awaited them in the vast universe, they would face them together. Their accidental marriage had become the foundation for adventures beyond anything either had ever imagined. The stars ahead held infinite possibilities, and Marcus Reed was ready to explore them all.